So for the second one here, Jada asked some students at her school how many hours they spent watching television last week to the nearest hour. Here's a histogram for the data she collected. It's right here. So about how many students did Jada ask, and explain how you know. So the way to show our work here is that this histogram, this first bar here, is telling us that there are 40 students because the y-axis on a histogram is always the frequency. In this case here, it's the number of students that Jada asked. So in this first bar, it's saying that 40 students watched from 0 to 5 hours of TV last week. So we have 40 is our first number of students. Then our second bar is telling us that 30 students watched from 5 to 10 hours last week. Then the third bar is 20 students that watched 10 to 15 hours. Then the fourth bar is going to be 5 students watched from 15 to 20 hours. Then these ones get a little bit close together here. I'll say that this one here ends up being about 3 and this one ends up being about 2. So we add 3 and add 2, and that is how we show how many students that Jada asked, because we're adding all of these frequencies together, 40 plus 30 plus 20 plus 5 plus 3 plus 2. We end up getting 100. I say about 100 just because if we got a different 3 or a different than a 3 or different than a 2 here, that's okay. So it should land right about 100 here for the number of students. For number 2 though, or for 2B, we use the histogram to find out how many students spent exactly 12 hours watching TV. We can't tell that because 12 lands somewhere in the middle here between 10 and 15. We know that 20 students watched from 10 to 15 hours, but we're not told any of the students watched exactly 12 hours. In this case here, we know that it's possible that maybe all 20 students watched 14 hours of TV, and therefore 0 students watched 12 hours. There's also a possibility that all 20 of them watched 12 hours a week. That's in between 10 and 15. A histogram isn't specific enough to tell us the exact number, but we do know that from 0 to 20 students watched 12 hours exactly.